Hi, welcome along to AFTV. We are here today to discuss, of course, the club that we all love, Arsenal. Of course, yesterday was transfer deadline day, or as it's now become commonly known to Arsenal fans, Monday. And, you know, Monday because we didn't get any business done. We didn't sign anybody, and there's been lots of, we had lots of debates around it last night. And I thought, let's do a video today. You know, we've had a day now to settle down, think about things, think about, was it good business? Was the club being sensible? Was it great that we managed to get the high wages of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang off the wage bill? But also, what does it do for our chances of getting into the top four? Has it damaged our chances of getting into the top four? Because remember, there's still a long way to go in the Premier League in this season. We're more or less just over the halfway point. So still a lot of games to be played. And Arsenal are in a good position to get into the top four. But did we damage our chances by not being a bit more proactive when it came to bringing players in the transfer window? We did well in getting players out, but did we bring enough players in? This is what we're going to discuss today. Joining me to discuss it, we've got Julian. How you doing, Julian?
Yeah, I'm half good today.
Half good. All right, great. We've got, of course, Turkish. How you doing?
All good, man.
And the legend himself, Mr. Dan Potts, is here as well. Dan, great to have you on. How are you?
Yeah. Listen, you say you're good, but are you good? After yesterday, I certainly was not good, Robbie. But you know what? I'm happy to be here to discuss it now. Now the emotions settled a little bit, so I'm looking forward to this tonight.
Okay, well, let's start off with you. Dan. First of all, let's just dive straight into it. What did you make of the transfer window yesterday? And it weren't just, we say transfer window yesterday. It's not just it. That's the final day of it. Overall, what did you make of the transfer window for Arsenal?
Well, what I want to do is make something clear straight off. I have nothing against the players that left the club. I want to say that first. Because personally, they were all players that weren't really making it and cutting the mustard in the first team. Okay? So if they're not in the first team, they're not part of this long-term future. I have nothing against getting rid of Deadwood and removing the culture, like everyone keeps saying. But I do have a problem with it if you're not going to bring anybody in to replace him. And this is the thing that's riled me up the most. It's nothing to do with the fact we've sold players. It's that we've got nobody into the football club. I thought that our top four chances were pretty much zero anyway, because I don't like the manager's inconsistency. So we'll come on to that a little bit later. But personally, when I look at our squad, I already thought it was paper thin. Now, it's an understatement to call it paper thin, because we are an ACL injury away from playing Eddie Nketiah up front. If Laka gets a long-term injury, we've got Eddie up top for the rest of the season. There's so many question marks, Robbie, as to what we are doing this window. Why did we not get somebody in early to try and compete for the cup competitions? There's no answer for it. There's no excuses. There's no justifications for Maitland-Niles going out that quickly. We move on. Then we are really short up top. We're really short. What do? We sell Aubameyang. Now, again, I've got nothing wrong with Aubameyang going if he's not going to kick a ball ever again for Arsenal. There's no point playing the £25 million a year that everyone is apparently saying we've saved now, which is a madness as well. That's another story. There's nothing wrong with getting rid of him if you're going to bring a player in. So, of course, I'm looking at these outgoings thinking they're leaving it a bit late, but we will definitely get somebody in, because they are shooting themselves in the foot if they want to leave themselves this far. And when I say they, I'm not talking about one man here. I'm talking about this process everybody's been trying to tell me to trust for 2 years. This guy is neglecting Arsenal and always has done in the last 10 years. His son, you don't hear anything from anymore. Silent Stan, it's now turned into Silent Josh, because I don't hear from him now either on the transfer window, the most important month of our season, in my opinion, to try and keep us in cup competitions and add a few to go for the top four. You don't no longer hear from Josh Kroenke. Edu is putting Instagram pictures of cigars and him on a jet ski and him on a barbecue with a wine with his little pinky out. What's so funny? What's so chilled out for, bro? If I had that job at Arsenal and I was only working 2 days of the year like he does, I'll be stealing a living. What is the guy here for? And Mikel Arteta, the fan base say that Mikel Arteta cannot be blamed for this transfer window because his job is not to sign players. The same fans that big him up for the signings of Ramsdale and Tomiyasu, do not big Mikel Arteta up for those signings then. Because it ain't his fault that we didn't sign anybody. It is nothing to do with him when he does sign players. Let's get it right. Let's be consistent.
On that, I think, you know, Mikel Arteta, when he first came in, he came in as the coach. Remember, that was the coach. They then changed his role to manager because they wanted to reflect the fact that he had more input now. So he does have an input into the players that are hired and fired, you could say. I mean, Julian, let me get your perspective on it. I know you're always very positive on these things.
Yeah.
Was it sensible business by Arsenal, in your opinion? You know, you can hear Dan there. He's very frustrated. He's very upset that we didn't bring anyone in. But for you, was it being sensible, not bringing anyone in if the right targets are not available?
Yeah, I think that there's two parts to a transfer window. There's the ins and there's the outs. So if I was giving it marks out of 10, I'd mark it as a 5 out of 10 because the outs were successful. The players that we got rid of and we sold and we loaned out and we gave away were players that haven't been contributing to the team. Those players haven't been getting into the team. So what are they doing? They're just sitting on the sidelines taking a wage. So the fact we've got them off the wage bill, and some of them we weren't specifically looking to get off the wage bill, we're looking to develop, like Balogun. When I saw him play first game of the season, we were all very excited, and he didn't perform. It's not that he's not going to be a good player, but at the moment he's not ready. So he definitely needed a chance to play first team football because up to now he's played under 23s, which really isn't the same. So for different reasons, I think they did well in getting the players out. As regards bringing the players in, I can't give them a score because they didn't bring any players in. And of course, there's something that as fans.
Why?
Well, there's
because wouldn't you look at it and say to yourself, all right, so Aubameyang's gone.
Yep.
Right? That means we're left with Edin Dzeko, who hasn't scored a Premier League goal this season.
Correct.
And Alexander Lacazette, who scored 3 Premier League goals this season. And despite how bad Aubameyang has been, he scored, I think, 7 goals. He is more likely to score a goal than those two. So fair enough, you've moved him out. But why not bring another striker in?
Well, from what I could see, they made every attempt to bring in the player that they wanted. They didn't get that player. He seemed to fit everything that we needed. We made the effort. We put the money down. He didn't want to come. He went to where he wanted to go. Now, it could well have been that if Juventus hadn't put the money down, we would have got him because he may well have had first choice for Juventus, but these are professional players that they don't get born, I want to play for Juventus. If he couldn't play for Juventus, I'm sure he'd have come to Arsenal. So we were there, we were pitching for him, we didn't get him. So then what do? Do you then go to a player and spend money on a player that you don't necessarily want? Or do you look at what you've got within the club and try and fit those into the team? So
when you look at,
go on, Turkish.
When you look at what's next after Aubameyang, who's Lacazette and Edin Dzeko, don't you ask yourself, why are we now looking at strikers with 6 months left on their contract? Why are we in that position now? Because the club already should have identified a second choice striker 18 months ago. They should have been doing the scouting for the strikers a long time ago, because this was always coming. The Aubameyang situation has sped that process up, but this situation where we need strikers, and I say strikers plural because we need 2 strikers, it was always coming. So as much as the Aubameyang thing in isolation, no one expected it, and you'll have some people understand the disciplinary side of it, but to me, it needs to be explained. Put him aside. Why are our second choice and third choice strikers coming to the end of their contract and we're now relying upon them? Because the club have failed to do adequate business previously. So I
Sure.
can't let them get away with it because of what you just said regarding like Oba and the first choice striker.
Yep, and they could have identified the second choice strikers after the fact they didn't get the boy that went to Juventus. And those choices could be internal choices because, as well as Nketiah and Lacazette, what you've got is two other players within the club that could potentially play that position, which is Martinelli and Pepe. And it may just be that one of those comes in. You look at Martinelli. I mean, I always remember that goal he scored at Chelsea. He could fit the bill. And if he goes into that position, then you can fit Smith Rowe into the team as well. Now, yes,
This
you're
is
going to
a
have
big
to be
gamble.
lucky.
This is all.
It is
This
a
is
gamble,
all a gamble, isn't it?
It's all. But everything's a gamble. If you brought a big player in from the continent, there's always the gamble. How long does it take for those players to bed in? Because we know we've seen it so many times. Even Bergkamp didn't hit the ground running. He took about 10 games. He looked. I wouldn't say he looked average, but he didn't look like the Bergkamp that we remember.
But Julian, don't you think we've left ourselves short?
Potentially, we are relying on no suspensions and no injuries and no illness. Because if we
1 second. Even without suspensions and injuries, say there's no suspensions and injuries. Are you confident that, say, for instance, Edin Dzeko will get us 10 goals between now and the end of the season in the Premier League?
I am as confident that the internal resources that they've got, and I'm not just talking about Nketiah, are as much of a gamble.
He's a striker.
Yeah, he's a striker. He's not a world-class striker. I'm not going to say that he is. Can he score goals? Yeah, I've seen him score goals. Am I confident above a world-class striker that he would score goals? No. But in the same vein, I can see that we do have the internal resources. And it's all a gamble. Bringing a big player in is a gamble.
But we bought in when we bought in Aubameyang.
Yeah,
he hit the ground running and scored loads of goals.
Absolutely, and that was a gamble that it paid off.
Everything. I mean, let me go to you, Dan. Because everything's a gamble, isn't it? I mean, let me ask you the same question. Are you confident that Edin Dzeko, for instance, and I'm not meaning to pick on him, that Edin Dzeko can get us 10 goals between now and the end of the season in the Premier League? Well, that's what we've got to play in anyway.
Edin Dzeko found his level when he scored a hat-trick against Sunderland in League One, mate. He needs to go down there. He ain't good enough for Arsenal Football Club, and he never will be. Lacazette works hard, holds the ball up very, very well. 3 goals. So the answer is no, neither of them will score 10 goals this season. And we didn't want someone to come in and just score 10 goals. We wanted someone to come in and be that, and take us to that next level. And I thought Vlahovic was that guy. But what worries me the most, Rob, is that we didn't have a plan B after him. And when Vlahovic wasn't available, we went in for nobody else. And I don't have an inside. I don't know any ITKs. I'm not going to pretend I do. I don't know that Arsenal haven't tried to get another 5 strikers in the last day of the window and they all turned us down. I have no idea. But it didn't look very well planned, let's say, or organised. So I have absolutely zero, mate. I mean, listen, Julian said that Arteta is the vaccine for this club. I don't think he's managed to turn the strikers and made them disappear, because that's what the vaccine's done. They've all run off. So I don't understand personally how Arteta can be praised for this transfer window, or Edu, or any of the board, or Stan Kroenke.
But do you take the point though? Do you take the point that Julian's making, that, because we, as fans, me included, we all want players now. It's just a January transfer window. We want players. But if you go out and you buy a striker, it's going to be very, very expensive. And it may not really be the guy that you want. It's just like you're just doing it to appease the fans. So is it better, if you can't identify that target, if you can't get that player, to just say, well, right, you know what, we can't find no one out there. We're just going to have to go with what we got.
So there's 2 answers to that, isn't there? Do we panic buy? I'd rather not panic buy and get a Diego Costa on a free, right? I'd rather not bother. But saying that, when you have got into a situation that we have, where you are desperate for players up top, then that is the only option that you are left with. And this goes back to, why are we in this place in the first place? Why are we here? Why have we allowed Edu and Arteta not to have sorted this out in the summer when we knew that Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah should have both been sold when now they've only got 6 months on their contract? We should have got a striker in already so we weren't in this mess. On top of Aubameyang, yeah, whether he's staying or going, we already needed a striker in the summer, in my opinion. So when we get to January and we're desperate, we're now talking about desperate times, and these conversations are going to now come up, and they shouldn't be coming up. We shouldn't have Eddie Nketiah and Lacazette anywhere near the club because they don't want to be here. They ain't signing new contracts. People say we've learnt from our mistakes. We have not learnt from our mistakes because we've had Ozil, Willian and Aubameyang that we've had to basically say, we'll pay you off or just please go on a free because we want to get rid of you financially. We've got Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah that are down to 6 months left of their contract. We're not having Gazidis who left the club 2 years ago.
There's other clubs with players that have got, Pogba's got 6 months left on his contract.
I don't care about other clubs, Robbie. I don't care about other clubs.
Kylian Mbappe has 6 months left on his contract. Should PSG just say to him, all right, go. We don't want you around.
They will, because PSG are in a different situation to us, mate. He will go. Kylian Mbappe has already said he wants to go. It's about players not wanting to be there. So when they don't want to be there, more fool them. If they've not got rid of them already, why are we allowing players to go for free transfers all the time? How many players have gone for free? We don't learn from our mistakes. This is a different regime under the same owner, and we're still making the same mistakes. How can people justify this? I see people making excuses for this being an okay window because we've cleared the dead wood. We've just weakened the side. It's an embarrassment, mate, that people stick up for this window. Unbelievable.
Same for you, Turkish. I mean, who out there would you say then we could have bought in as a striker?
Well, there was one that the fan base apparently tracked down on Saturday on Twitter. I'm not saying he is the one, but when you need 2 or 3 strikers in the next, month, 6 months, 18 months, that's the reality. You can take a risk like that.
Because all right, but what if? Sorry to cut across you, but just going back to that, you're on about Isaac, yeah?
Yeah, one option.
Yeah, but they didn't want to sell him. The Real Sociedad came out and said, we're not selling him in this January transfer window. Vlahovic decided to go to Juventus. There was Jonathan David who was spoken about. Lille said they're not selling him in January. So if clubs ain't selling, then what? What do we do?
You flex. This is the English Premier League. You have teams that flex in this league because the money's so long. The money's long at Arsenal Football Club. Yes, we're about to post losses and whatnot, but the reality is if the club was run right, we'd be in a much better position to be able to do what we need to do, which is take risks. Someone said it already. Every transfer is a risk. Every big transfer is a risk. Every single one. Chelsea have taken about 10 risks over the last 5 to 10 years. 7, 6 of them might have worked out. 3, 4 haven't worked out. United,
they've got the money to do that, haven't
they? Yeah. They do, but Arsenal have had money. It's just that it's been tight. For what reason? Stan Kroenke. But we'll move on to that later on in the show. I'm sure of it because it's bound to get into that direction. But Arsenal have had money. We've had money. It's a myth to say that Arsenal haven't had money. It's really been tight. That's the way the club has been run. The club has been run like that. Self-sustaining for how many years? It's become stale. So the profit-making business they invested in is now loss-making, but there's still money there. There is still money there. Stan Kroenke last year, I think he added 100 million roughly onto the club's debt. I think the club's debt stands at about 500 million now. Last year, 2021, Stan Kroenke added 100 million onto the club's debt. So as much as we spent 150 million in the summer transfer window, most people won't know he put that debt on the club. So really, is it 150 million we spent or is it 50 million we spent? And is that 50 million from the club's own making or is it really from Stan's pocket? I know what I'm going to think it is because it's never been from Stan's pocket. That's factual. It's never come from Stan's pocket. So everyone already assuming that the summer was Stan Kroenke. Let's find out in the next month because the reports are going to come out and we'll find out whether it's owner invested or not. But it's unlikely that it is, in my honest opinion, especially if you look at 100 billion debt he put on the club. That cancels it out. So we are in this situation now because he's used us as a pawn for his American franchises to be successful. The club value has allowed him to use us as an asset to take out big loans and invest in his American franchises. That's all we are, an asset. So the more we make loss, he's not necessarily going to care. He's looking at the valuation of the club, which has gone up over the years while Arsenal have gone down. Why? Because the English Premier League is the most watched league. It has the most
Turkish. He was coughing up nearly £60 million at the start of this window for them to get Vlahovic. That wasn't a bogus bid. They were in for Vlahovic. They were, you know what I mean? He was putting the money up there to get Vlahovic. Vlahovic, obviously, as we know, he decided to go to Juventus instead. So that shows that he was willing to invest. It's just that they're looking on it and saying, why invest in something that we don't want after the main target went?
I don't believe that. I don't believe these journalists and the mouthpieces for the club. I don't believe none of it. And the way Callum Chambers' move happened and the way this Austin Trusty move happened, there was not a whisper of it on Twitter. For all the in-the-nose and journalists Arsenal Football Club have on Twitter who talk every single hour of every single day, there was not a whisper of Callum Chambers or Austin Trusty, which is, one of the only incoming we've had and one of the biggest outgoings we had in Callum Chambers. How come they didn't know that one? How come they didn't know that Vlahovic was the only name on the list then?
But you don't think Arsenal were going for Vlahovic?
No, it's also like I don't think we went for Higuain.
Hold on. You don't think that Arsenal? Why?
Because
when all the evidence points towards, even Vlahovic's agents came out and said, yes, they're after us. Yes, they were trying to contact us, but we had no interest in Arsenal.
Can I be honest with you? These agents and these other clubs now play on the way Arsenal fans are online. They know online we are the most clickable fan base. And by clickable, I mean we are clicking everything. Left, right, centre, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, everything. Arsenal fans are on strings because of the way we've been run. Other agents use that. Locatelli, for example. Do I believe 100% we're in for him? No. This is all smoke screens, in my opinion.
So you believe this month Arsenal were after nobody?
Yes. We've done it before, Rob. What's shocking about that? We've done it before.
No, but I'm just saying, because I'm just saying, to me, it's quite common knowledge in the world of football that Arsenal were trying to get Vlahovic.
But if I ask
That's you, common.
But if I ask you who, it's going to be like, this is my personal opinion. I know I'm on AFTV, but if you ask me who, it's going to be Romano or it's going to be Wheatley or Charles Watts. I don't care about these men, Rob. I don't care about what these men say. They're mouthpieces, in my opinion, for the club. They're fed information, whether they shake the club's hand for it or whether it's fed through a third-party source. The club release information. How often are Twitter in the nose and journals and all this right about Arsenal? How often? It's very rare. That's why I don't follow none of them. Because I don't want to be on strings.
Julian, what about you? Do you think Arsenal were genuinely in for Dusan Vlahovic?
Yes, I absolutely believe that they were, that they tried everything they could.
Can I ask that, Julian?
Go on.
As a business, yeah.
If
you go into January 1st, even December 31st, you need a striker, yeah, because of the Oba situation. If Vlahovic is the striker you want, surely you say to him, you have until the 14th of January or the 21st of January to make a decision. And whilst he's making a decision on it, you sort out your plan B, because your first instinct is he's dubious about it. Why isn't the club run like this? Why is
So if I was running it, the date would have been the end of the transfer window, and I'd be looking at my plan B anyway, regardless of what was going to come up and what decision was going to be made. I'd be looking at my plan B. Now, from what I can see of the plan Bs that were available, you had, and I don't know as much about the other players, but I had a look at Isaac, and they wanted, was it 75 million for him?
That's his release clause.
That was a release clause.
That was a release clause, and if we wanted to get him at the end, we'd have had to pay 75 million for him. Now, I respect that it is a business. If I was running that business, it would be run differently, but that's because I'm emotionally involved with Arsenal. I accept that Kroenke isn't emotionally involved, and I think it would be business suicide to pay £75 million for a player that's probably, from what I can see, worth about 20. I just don't think that the guy's worth it. So if that's plan B that's available on the open market, I would look for my plan B, as I said, internally. And I think our internal resources, which we've already got in place, they're already in the squad, may not be in the team, could step up and it could click. And I look at other,
Could.
yeah, could,
Who?
but
Who
then
are we
the
talking
other,
about,
but then
Julian?
the other side,
Julian, you're a businessman, yeah.
Yeah.
I know you're a businessman, and you run your business very well. Do you operate your business off of it could, maybe it might? Yeah, you wouldn't, would you? You're going to do all you can. You're going to do all you can to make sure you put yourself in the best position to achieve the end game.
Absolutely. So what I
so
would
you're not going to be like, oh well, if I could, maybe I could.
Everything. I mean, everything in business and in life, you don't, unless you've got a DeLorean, which I don't. You do not know the future. So you could have spent 75 million on Isaac, and he could have been the greatest striker ever. He's still young. It could click for him. I just don't think at 75 million, it's risk reward. It would have been worth it. So I looked at, I can never pronounce his name, Vlahovic. I keep calling the boy
Vlahovic.
Vlahovic. And I think for that money, he was worth the gamble, because it's always a gamble. I don't think Isaac was. I looked at what was the other alternatives. The one that I've always fancied was Calvert-Lewin, but he hasn't played for about 6 months. And are Everton in a position that they want to sell him? Probably not. So I didn't see that we had the options. And one thing I didn't want to see is us just buying a player and spending a shed load of money just because the fan base was baying for a new player. Because what the fan base usually wants is short-term gratification. And I'm not into short-term gratification. I'm into long-term love. And I just think that
Jules, you say internally that you have faith in internally. Who do you have faith in that's going to get us double figures?
Okay, I have more faith in our internal resources than I would do on spending 75 million on Isaac. The players that I have the faith that I think could possibly step into that role, and we're looking at 17 games here, is Martinelli or Pepe. As well as Lacazette and Eddie. I don't think Eddie's the worst player. I think he has got the potential to be a great finisher.
Julian, in January, the month of January just gone, we scored 1 goal.
Yeah.
1. We didn't win a game. We got knocked out of 2 cups. Right? Even if, right, you're saying with like the Isaac and it, don't you think sometimes, again, from a business point of view, not even business point of view, from a football point of view, don't you think sometimes that when you bring a player in, it freshens things up? It gives a new vibe around the place. Even with the fans, everyone's excited. I mean, we've seen the effect, for instance, of Coutinho has had at Aston Villa. All of a sudden, every Villa fan was buzzing. A couple of new signings. You know what I mean? It's changed the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
Now, after the month that we've had, where we haven't won a game, we've been knocked out of 2 cups, and we've only scored 1 goal, don't you think it would have been good to have brought in someone who just give the place, just lift it up, just get us excited? The next game against Wolves, we're all like, yeah, I can't wait to get down there to see such and such.
Okay, so I'll answer that in 2 ways. From what I understand of what you've just said, you're looking at a PR exercise. Let's all have a feel-good factor. Let's have something brand new and shiny that we can all get excited about. And after 20 minutes of them being on the pitch at Wolves, we're all booing. No, I don't think that's a good idea. And the second example is, yes, it could work out. Or you could have something that I remember, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was probably 10, 20 years ago, because time flies, is when Newcastle were competing with United to win the league. And they looked favourites to win the league. And what did they do? They brought in someone exciting, fresh, new and shiny called Asprilla. And what did he do? Absolutely disrupted that team and they fell apart after that. So
That's one example. That's one example.
And you gave me one
because
example.
we can look at
and
Arsenal.
You gave me one example of the Aubameyang.
No, but we can do Aubameyang. When we brought Aubameyang in, there was people. But hold on, when we brought Aubameyang in, people were so excited. They were tracking his plane coming in, and that he came in, he scored goals. The excitement, and that excitement gave us a lift, right? Yep. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes
I'm not looking for a lift for one game or 20 minutes or a couple.
No,
of
it may not be. It's not necessarily going to be for one game.
No, but it could be because he just might not fit in. As I've seen, even some of our great players that we've had, Pires, Bergkamp, Henry, they didn't look great for the first 10 games of their careers. Pires especially took at least a season to bed in. We haven't got that. We have got 17 cup finals coming up, 17 games where we need players to hit the ground running. We haven't got time to bed players from the continent in that aren't necessarily up to the pace of the English Premiership.
All right, Julian. All right, let me ask you then. So you don't think we've damaged our chances of getting into the top four?
I don't think we've improved our chances, but we haven't damaged our chances because the players we've got shot of weren't contributing anyway.
Okay, let me ask
so
you.
I'm pretty neutral
Dan,
on it. As I said, 5 out of 10 for me.
Dan, do you think we've damaged our chances of getting into the top four?
Yes, I do. I didn't think we had a chance of getting in the top four with the players we had. To actually damage, because I don't rate the manager, but actually damage our chances by getting rid of the players and not replacing them. 100% we have. Do you know what this football club has told me right now in this transfer window? There is nobody out there better than Lacazette and Edin Dzeko. Goodbye. Get out of my club, all of you. If you believe that to be true, get the hell out of the club. You're getting rid of Aubameyang, who, let's be honest, has been an elite striker in the last 4 years of the club, and in the last 18 months has had some problems. And they're saying that he's not good enough, but we're going to stick with Lacazette and Eddie. Nobody needs to come in. It's an absolute shambles what we've seen, and I can't believe that there are fans that are happy with this situation, Rob. It is a joke. We have damaged our chances this season, and I think we've damaged not just our chances of top four. The reason we damaged both of our chances of getting to a Carabao Cup final and past Nottingham Forest was because of the same thing, bringing no players in midfield and loaning out players when we had fixtures cancelled. It's a madness what we've seen this month. This has been one of the lowest of the lows this month that I've ever been an Arsenal fan in 34 years. Nothing. It's just been a shambles, mate.
What about you, Turkish? You think it's damaged?
Yeah. Any hopes that came about from good form in December, which is slight hopes because we had just beaten West Ham and got into the top four and other teams had games in hand, they're gone now. And people can call me doom and gloom or mathematically it's not that yet. But we know we've seen this book before. Come February, March, the fan base will be saying we can still get top 6. That still be positive. Top 6 is not something I'm after. I'm not going to lie to anyone. At the beginning of the season, I didn't even think top 6 was possible. But like I said, the good form in between big games after the 3 losses of the season and then December form after losing Everton, Liverpool and United, that got us into a position where I was like, well, I didn't think top 6 was possible, but currently moving into the new year, we're in the top 4 and we're in the ascendancy in that respect. So I've got to move the goalposts a bit. And then you get knocked out FA Cup, you get knocked out League Cup, and you do all of this madness in the January transfer window. And I call it madness because on one hand, it is a lot of dead wood gone. It is. I've asked for Maitland-Niles to be sold for years. All right, he still hasn't been sold yet. But my problem is we should have made money on these players too. It's come to the boiling point with them. I think Dan said earlier, we don't get a fee for our top players. I think someone put on Twitter, our best 5 players over the last 10 years, we haven't got anything for. I think Ramsey, Cazorla, Aubameyang now, Sanchez, Ozil. All of these names have come in and out of Arsenal Football Club and we haven't managed to recoup nothing for them. And this transfer window is one of the worst I've seen. It's up there with the Czech transfer window. It's up there with that 2016 one where we finished second and then we bought Mustafi and Xhaka and then we haven't made Champions League since. It's up there with Kim Kallstrom. It's up there with the worst of them, Rob. I can't lie to you. And it doesn't only damage this season's top 4 hopes. I think this is going to be the the deciding month in Arteta's process or reign.
And what's the
Whether
common
that's-
denominator there, for Turkish? Who's the common denominator there? Different managers, different coaches, different board members, one owner.
What about
How
that comment
clear
there?
is it?
What about this comment there? Excuse me. Alan Garcia says, relax. We've got 13 games left. A great young squad that are hungry. If last summer shows us anything, is that we buy smart, not panic. Trust the process. Because you can panic at this time, can't you?
Why does Alan choose to look at just last summer? Where, don't get me wrong, we done good business, but we didn't.
Yes, so hold on. No, but you just said it. Last summer we did good business.
Good business, but it still wasn't enough.
So now they don't want to panic. He's saying, don't panic.
Yeah.
Don't panic.
What about the summer?
We
before
got there. We got there. You know, to Julian's point, we got there. We buy Isaac. He comes in. He scores 1 goal, 2 goals before now. Everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, that was a panic buy."
I don't care what people are going to be like. I want the board to show ambition.
But you want them to spend. You want them to spend in the right areas, don't you?
Yeah, but it might not work. Even if we bought Vlahovic, that might not work. But I want this club to show ambition.
But do you have to
100%.
trust the judgment of these people that are in charge, where they're looking on it and saying, right, they might have had. Let's be real here. They could have had 3 targets that we didn't know about, that they got in contact with the club, because this happens all throughout January, where they could get in contact with a club and they can say, let's just say Jonathan David, and they could get in contact with Lille and say, listen, Jonathan David, we're interested. And Lille will say, listen, absolutely no way are we selling Jonathan David this January. We're trying to get into Europe. Then they go to Jonathan David's agent and they say, any chance, you reckon? And he says, you know what? No, we've sat down, we've spoken to the club. We're not going anywhere until the summer. That target's gone. They go to another target that they may be interested, that fits the style that they want to play. They get the same answer. So then they come to the conclusion and say, well, do you know what? We can go out there and panic buy and go and buy someone. Because remember, whoever you buy, that's it. You got him as well for the next 3-4 years on contracts with getting money. Or you say to yourself, you know what? We're going to have to be a bit more creative with what we've got here. And we'll just have to try and go for those really big ones in the summer, because the striker position is so important. We want to get it right.
Rob,
you don't think that could be...
Who's the big ones? Who's the big ones?
I don't know. I don't know. We have to wait till the summer's going to be interesting.
Rob, my thing is, this club has been brought down so low over the last decade, that we can't get the top tier strikers. We can't even look at that bracket. And I think we're all in agreement there. We can't enter the top tier striker bracket. So now what we're saying is, that second tier bracket of striker, which we can get, the fan base don't want to overpay for, or they reject us. So what do we do next? Do we go to the third tier because we can get a cheap striker like a Lucas Perez in? Remember that one? Or many more over the years, and see how that goes. Right now,
but that's kind of what you're saying. No, but hold on, isn't that kind of what you're saying? Because you're saying that you wouldn't, both of you and Dan are saying you desperately, and to be honest, me as well, I'm playing a bit of devil's advocate here, right? But we were all desperate to see a striker come in. But it could have been a Lucas Perez. It could have been a Denis Suarez type player.
And you could have paid well over the odds for that. And is that what we want to do? I don't want to see these players being brought in.
If we had that attitude, we'd never sign anyone. We'd never sign anyone if we had that attitude. Let's just keep what we got, because they might not be good players. Let's just stick with Eddie.
Because the 6 players that we brought in the summer, I supported every single one of those purchases. And I saw the rational thinking behind it. And they proved to be good signings, because they weren't panic signings. They were the right age, the right mentality. And I'm not looking to bring in.
So you didn't think Ben White would be a risk at 50 million? You thought he was going to be. You didn't think that was a risky signing?
Everything is a risk. But when I looked at Ben White, everything's a risk. But the risk was worth it at 50 million. And a lot of it had to do with talking to Brighton fans, and also looking at different positions he could play, and understand that he was the type of player that we needed. It wasn't a panic buy. It was well thought out. he fitted the model. So yes, I think we paid over the odds at the time. We paid the English tax, but it wasn't outrageous. I think 75 million for a player like Isaac was outrageous. I think in hindsight, then the deal for Aubameyang was absolutely stupid. To take a player that was in the twilight of his career, that relied pretty much on speed, and paying that kind of money was always going to be a recipe for disaster. But what that did, it kept the fan base happy at the time, because if he had walked, the majority of the fan base would have been in revolt. And they passed. And I think that deal, as the Ozil deal, was to pacify the fan base. Going back to the Ozil,
so this club put themselves in a position where they have to give Oba a panic contract, because all of you men are talking about panic buys, and let's not panic buy. So we give Oba a panic contract. A year and a half later, we get rid of him early without adequately replacing him. Yeah,
on a
and
free.
all of a sudden we're praising the club for not panic buying.
I think it was a mistake,
and
it's a mistake I don't want to see him repeat. It was a mistake to sign him on that deal. It didn't make sense to me, a player at that age. We'd got the best out of him. What I want to see is players like they've brought in last summer, the players that haven't realised their potential but have the potential. Aubameyang was a great player, but it had his great days. He was at the top of his career on the way down.
What if he goes to Barcelona, Julian? Well, he's gone to Barcelona.
Yeah.
What if between now and the end of the season, right, he scores, say, 10, 15 goals, and then we stuck with Eddie and Lacazette, and between them they score like 3 or 4? What are you going to say then?
Whatever he does,
because the thing is, we're all making we're all saying at the moment about Aubameyang that great business getting him off the wage bill and that. Did we try enough to, or as I say, did Mikel Arteta try hard enough to assimilate him back into the team after whatever went down? Because there have been other players around the league. Ivan Toney right now, you know what I mean? He told his, the Brentford fans to F off, but basically they've worked it out and it's going to assimilate him back into the team. Let's see what he does. Lukaku went over to Italy, gave that interview, slagged off Chelsea, slagged off the manager very publicly. No, a lot worse than turning up late, right? But they've worked it out. They've assimilated him back into the team and that. And so it's all right saying, I kind of agree with Dan on this one. Oh, great business. We got him off the wage bill. Well, hold on a minute. It's not great business because we didn't get a transfer fee for him. And we paid £56 million for him. Yeah. And also, right, what might have been better business is to sit him down, try and get him back on track, and then get him scoring the goals from now till the end of the season. If he did do that, we would be in the top 4, and then possibly we could then sell him on for a fee. Okay. So it's not really great business, is it? It's a mess. Yeah. It's an absolute mess, Julian.
Well, you made a lot of points there, and I'm going to try and remember from sort of the first one.
Well, remember the mess one. Yeah. It's an absolute mess.
That was
Do you remember that one?
Well, that was the last one. The first one you talked about was what if he scores a lot of goals at Barcelona? If he does, good luck to him, because scoring for Barcelona,
hold on, but that's going to make us look terrible. It's going to make us look terrible if he goes there and he scores a load of goals. Why? Let's be real.
Because if he plays for Barcelona, and Barcelona are one of the top teams in Spain and absolutely flying, and he scores in the Spanish league, that doesn't mean he would have scored at Arsenal. He wasn't playing at Arsenal. That was the fact. For whatever reason, he wasn't playing.
It means a manager has got the best out of him.
But we don't know.
Yeah, you heard what Dan said there. It means the manager there in Xavi has got the best out of him.
Okay, so there's an if there. It's a different league. He'll be playing. Yeah, he'll be playing. He wasn't playing for Arsenal. We don't know the exact reasons why he was dropped at Arsenal, why he was excluded.
Do you think they should have given us a bit more info? Do you think they should have given us a bit more information?
I think it's going to be a lot easier to give a direct comment and a direct opinion if we had all the information. Because at the moment we're all guessing. It could be when it comes out that we absolutely agree with what's happened.
Don't you think it would have been a bit better for Arsenal to have given us listen, they ain't got to tell us everything, but maybe give us a bit more information on that, because I'm a bit baffled by it, because we heard he turned up late twice. Or, a few times he turned up late. He got stripped of the captaincy. I don't think anybody was in disagreement about that, because you're the captain. You can't be turning up late and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
However, he's been bombed out of the team. My personal opinion on it is that it seems to me like the whole aim of it from the beginning was get rid of the wages.
Okay, and
now
that's your personal opinion.
Let me just finish. Right, that's fine, as long as you get a replacement.
Okay, so
but we haven't got a replacement. Now we're relying on two players that are not as good. Okay. Which this is not us. I know you say, well, they could this and they could that. I'm basing it off of facts. Those two players that are left there, strikers, are not as good as Aubameyang. We've seen that over the year. Even this year, bad as he's been, he's better than them. And we brought in no replacement. So if he goes to Barcelona now and he starts scoring goals, this is very risky, isn't it? Very, very risky for Arteta. He's going to look terrible, Julian.
All right, I'm going to go back to one thing you said, is that you're basing it on facts. Now, you're not basing it on facts, because we're already all admitted that none of us know what the facts are. And you said, well, shouldn't Arsenal have told us more so we can make that informed decision?
When I said I'm basing it off of facts, I'm on about the amount of goals he scores in comparison to the guys that are left.
Yeah, he has scored more, but that was the past. He wasn't in full.
No, even this season, he scored more. He's played less games. He's played way less games than them, and he scored more goals.
Has he scored? Has he played less than Nketiah league games? Less than Nketiah?
Well, Eddie hasn't scored any.
Yeah, but you said he played.
And me and you were there.
He played more games.
All right, he may have played more than Eddie, but me and you were there. Me and you were there at Everton. We were sat next to each other when we saw Eddie miss from about a yard out.
Yeah, but he's missed, and we're also there, stood next to each other a few minutes after when Aubameyang missed I wouldn't say an absolute sitter, but a very good chance. And I think
Eddie's was an absolute sitter, and we was also there.
Both as bad as each other. They were both.
Eddie's was an absolute sitter, and then we were both. Then you were there. You was there, and you saw the one he missed at Forest.
Yeah.
Can't fault Eddie's effort, but come on, he's not as good.
And as Arteta said, in one of his press conferences, he said he's never going to get upset with a player for not putting it in the top corner every time. Strikers miss. Every striker miss. Henry missed in the Champions League final in 2006. Are we going to say he's a terrible player because he missed the goal?
Come on, Julian.
Julian.
Julian, man. He's got to be there to miss.
Julian, come on.
He's not.
You're comparing Edin Dzeko to Thierry Henry now. Come on, look, this has got to stop.
That all strikers miss.
Stop it.
All strikers miss goals.
Listen, in all seriousness, though, you know what's going to have to happen now, Robbie? He's going to have to turn to Pepe. He's going to have to, because Eddie can't play over Pepe.
He's not been playing Pepe either.
And that could
the guy doesn't like Pepe, and I don't know why. Obviously, I've had this debate with people. He's not one of my favourite players in the world, Pepe, but the guy scored 16 goals last season, top scorer, and we need goals right now. So he's going to have to try and utilise him. But the problem with Mikel Arteta is he can't get any of these guys scoring. Is it all 7 of these players are rubbish, or is it that Arteta can't get the best out of goal scoring? He can't get a side scoring. So that's what I need to look at. Pepe's going to have to come back into this side now. And listen, I hope he smashes it because I like the player. But again, it's a risk because Arteta doesn't seem to be able to utilise him.
What about Turkish? I'm looking at Turkish, right? And I don't know if he's transfixed, looking at his screen at Julian as if to say, "Yo, I'm gonna have to next time I see him, I'm gonna get him like this."
He has to form an orderly queue, I'm afraid.
Listen, you know what? I'm tired of this conversation because I've been having it for years. But what's good is that over the years, that percentage of the fan base that I've been having the conversation with, it's getting smaller and smaller until it's still not quite there yet. But I think eventually we'll get to a point where enough has been enough for the majority, and then all of that focus can go on the ownership. Whether you stop going games, whether you stop buying merchandise, whether you protest outside the stadium, whether you protest in America outside his American franchises, whatever it is, I think slowly but surely is coming. I just think that even the staunchest positivity merchants over the years, and in terms of positivity on this channel, I'd say Julian, Ty are up there in terms of dreams and how they see the reality of Arsenal Football Club and where we're going. I think that even Julian and Ty and fans that think like that will eventually come to a point where there's nothing to back anymore. It's going round in circles. I do think the conversation goes round in circles anyway, and I could pick out why. Like I said with the Aubameyang thing, you give him a panic contract. 18 months later, you get rid of him, and fans are saying, "Well done to the club." It's mad to me. If you really step back and look at that in itself, that's crazy that we can give the club credit for that. On top of that, we haven't bought a replacement, which is a now issue, which is just one for this window. So there's so many different angles to prove how poor this window's been. I think Julian giving it a 5 is the highest he can give it positively. I think, in all honesty, Julian giving it a 5 really means it's a 1 in reality. Because in a normal day, Julian would be giving 7s and 8s. Do you get what I'm saying? 5 to me is quite negative for Julian. Huh?
Because I couldn't give it more than a 5 because
exactly
the job was half done. But,
and you'd really want to do, and you're someone who'd really want to give them the benefit of the doubt, the glass half full rather than half empty, all of that.
But it wasn't an emotional call giving it a 5. It was like looking at the facts. I think they got the players out they needed to get out, and they did well with that. But they didn't bring other players in, so they've got to look at their plan B, and their plan B they've decided is internal. And we'll only be able to know whether that was successful at the end of the season. Because if plan B, which is the internal ones, don't work out, we get a few injuries, or Pepe doesn't click, or Martinelli, by taking Martinelli out of his position that he's in now and playing Smith Rowe there, doesn't work out, it was a really poor window. But
Julian, let me just ask you. Do you think we should have bought a striker this transfer window?
I don't think we should have just bought a striker. We should have bought the striker that we wanted. And if we couldn't get the striker we wanted, I don't think we should have just pacified the fans and spent a lot of money on someone that we didn't particularly want and may well not have fitted the system that he's trying to play.
Was it a mistake to send Ainsley Maitland-Niles out on loan to Roma early in the transfer window?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think we should have got a midfielder in early in the transfer window?
I would have liked to have seen Xhaka leave as part of that out. Maybe I'll give it a 4.5 because I'd like to have seen Xhaka go out, but we needed someone else. We needed a midfielder in. And yes, I'd have liked to have seen another midfielder come in, but it wasn't to be. And we don't know the exact reasons for it. I thought Wijnaldum would come in. I thought he could have done a job. There was a few others that were good. But I didn't want us just to buy someone for the sake of making the numbers up because we haven't bought anyone. I want us to buy the right players. And as you said, not a panic buy. So I'd rather just make do with what we've got rather than bring someone in for the sake of it.
Have we still got that pulling power, Julian?
We have. It depends who we're up against. When we're up against Man City or Chelsea or potentially Liverpool, then no, we don't. And now Newcastle coming up because football, whether we like it or not, is a big business, and the owners that we've got aren't the sugar daddies. And there's 3 teams in the league that are. There's 2 other teams at the moment that are bigger teams than us, which is Liverpool and Man United, with a bigger pulling power. So, yeah, against those teams, we have gone down. But against the vast majority of teams in the world, we've still got more pulling power because part of it is the English Premiership, as we've all said, is the greatest league in the world and got the most money coming into it. So yes, we do have great pulling power.
Dan, same question for you. Do you think we've got pulling power?
The facts would say that we still do have pulling power because we've managed to sign Aubameyang and Lacazette outside of the Champions League. We've managed to sign Thomas Partey, Gabriel, Kieran Tierney outside of the Champions League. This season, we've managed to get some players in But this month shows how things are starting to change when Vlahovic would go to Juventus over Arsenal. So I think we're getting to that. We're getting to that stage where, personally, I feel that we could be in trouble if we're outside of the European places for pulling power, and we need to be smart with our recruitment, and we have not been for many, many years. I look at the Liverpool side that won the league. They've got Salah and Alisson from Roma. They got Robertson from Hull. They got Van Dijk and Mane from Southampton. They got Firmino from Hoffenheim. They got Jordan Henderson from Sunderland. They got Chiesa from Leipzig. They got Joel Matip from Schalke. None of those players were Real Madrid, from Barcelona, from Juventus. So it's not about just being a team that has to have pulling power. It's about a team that has to have smart recruitment, and that is something that we have not had. When N'Golo Kante is turned down for Xhaka and Van Dijk is turned down for Mustafi, you have to question why the owner is asking people to recruit them. And then you've got to ask the same questions 5 years on and then 10 years on, because the owner has been recruiting people that cannot do the job. And at the moment, what this window's proved to me is that we have a lot of inexperience at the club, top to bottom. Expect mistakes, expect inconsistency, because at the moment, what we're seeing is just that.
All right, where will we finish this season, Dan?
I believe personally we will come 7th. I don't feel that we have the consistency, and I don't think that we have the manager to get any higher than that. I think with Antonio Conte, that's the only reason Spurs have got a chance at top 4. Manchester United have some match winners, and Ralph's just getting his feet under the table, so they have a chance of top 4. West Ham seem to have the best balance and probably are playing some of the best football at the moment out of the 4 sides. They've got a good manager in David Moyes that's doing just now what he did at Everton back in 2004 and 2005, getting them into the Champions League places. That's what they're doing with West Ham right now. So they've got a chance. If we beat Wolves, we have a chance of finishing above them. But I'm not confident that we'll beat Wolves at the moment, the way we're playing. For every great result we have, there's always an Everton away. For every Manchester City performance that we actually did lose, by the way, I think some fans forget that, we've always got a Burnley at home. So for me, that's just too inconsistent to even think about top 4 under this management. So the way I see it is that we will come 7th behind West Ham, Man United and Spurs.
Well, Turkish, where do you think we'll come?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Dan. 7th, 8th. Something like that. The next game against Wolves is a big one, but we still got to play them twice as well. And they're sniffing around now. And, you know, if we go into it with our morale low like it is, and the players, you know, feeling like us fans that we didn't improve the squad, then I don't look at that Wolves game as a good away trip, that's for sure. But we'll see. I think 7th, 8th. There was hope for top 4, but that Burnley result and then the end of the transfer window has killed that for me. So yeah, 7th, 8th. I'd probably stick to 8th again because it just sounds like something that's going to happen. 8th.
You don't want the European Conference League then, Turkish? Come 7th.
Don't. I really don't, mate. Like,
neither do I, mate.
You know, if we're in 7th and 6th is out of reach, then yeah, I don't mind throwing the last few to finish outside of that Conference League.
Julian?
Well, I look at who we're competing with, and I see it that it's a straight race between us, Man United, Spurs. I see West Ham falling away and Wolves falling away. And I look at the table; it's very tight. I look at the ins and outs of the transfer window, and I don't see that any of our direct competition have brought anyone in that's going to change things that much. I look at
Tottenham have made a couple of signings.
They've made a couple of signings. Again, they're from the continent. They could well take some time to bed in. One of them looks like
from the continent.
Yeah, they're young players. I don't think they're going to make massive
Bruno
changes.
Fernandes was from the continent.
Yeah, and it worked out very well.
Aubameyang was from the continent.
And that worked out. And for every one that you're telling me has worked
Coutinho's
out,
from the continent.
I can think of plenty that haven't initially.
Coutinho's from the continent.
Yeah, but he's played in the Premiership and he's done very well in the Premiership. But we didn't need a player like Coutinho. We've already got cover for that.
I don't know, man. He scored a goal already. That's more than Eddie.
So I see it as a very tight race between us. There's not going to be a lot in it. And as an Arsenal fan and as someone that wants to go to games to think that we're going to get there and not be going doom and gloom merchant, I believe we will get fourth. And I do think it's going to be tight, and there's going to be other factors. There's still COVID knocking around. Potentially, hopefully, that's come through our club, and we've seen the worst of that. And it could well affect other clubs. Injuries are going to play a big part, especially with the lack of squads. But on an upside, we haven't got the games. We're not involved in Europe. We're not involved in any of the cups, so we can concentrate purely on the league. So on the basis of the fact that I'm an Arsenal fan and we can focus on purely one goal, which is top four, I'd say we'll get fourth.
Okay.
Can I just ask something? So, Julian, you think we can get top four?
I definitely think we can.
You think the window was 5? If we don't make top 4, what happens?
Well, we've had this discussion before. If we get 8th or 9th by a long way, then I'd say it's time to go. If we miss out, if we're there competing and we come 6th, then it's an improvement. And I see the team as still on the up. The players that they've got in now are a young team. They are going to have bad days, as we've seen at Everton, as we've seen at Forest. But the general slide is upwards. It's been an upward trend this season.
Based on
results, based on performances, with a few blips, and there has been some blips, and they've been really bad blips.
I've actually seen
but the upward trend is an upward trend, both in results and performances.
I've seen a comparison of our first half of the season, not first half, I think first 20 games or something, compared to the 20 games or so this season, and there's not much difference in it. And you take out Europe out of it, and you take out, well, forget the cups because it doesn't really have much to play. You take out Europe out of it, there should be a better difference season on season than we're seeing at the moment. And
when
that's
you've
why
spent 250 million, yeah.
Yeah, and that as well, and that on top of Europe.
So then they've done what you want them to do: spend some money, and there's been an upward trend. So what's the problem? We should be happy.
No, I can't see the upward trend.
Well, look at the
results.
results.
Before you two kill Julian, I think I'm gonna wrap it up now. Right. I do want you, Dan and Turkish, to sleep well tonight, and not to be not to be stressed out even more from what. But listen, what do you guys out there think as well? You can still continue to leave it in the comments. Where do you think we'll finish? And do you think we've damaged our chances of getting into the top 4 this season? Or do you think, like Julian, that, listen, it was a sensible window by Arsenal? They didn't panic. They didn't just go out there and just buy players for the sake of it. The right players weren't available. So they did what they had to do and decided that we're not going to waste money. And, did what they did in that aspect. Thank you very much for all of the comments that have come in. I want to thank you very much as well, Dan. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. Big up as well to Turkish as usual. And also to you, Julian. Thank you very much as well. Love all the opinions, especially the varying opinions. I love that. And from all you guys out there who got involved as well. Thanks. We can't wait for that game. We've got no game this weekend because it's the FA Cup weekend, so another weekend off. I don't know. The players still in Dubai, aren't they?
Yeah.
The players are still in. All right for them, isn't it?
Yeah, they're all right.
Get a bit of sunshine in, mate. Whilst we're here all slagging it off. But yeah, listen. We look forward to that game next week. That's going to be a big test. Arsenal versus Wolves. It's going to be a massive game. And it's going to be interesting to see how Aubameyang gets on in Barcelona as well. I guess we'll all be keeping an eye on that as well. So I still think it's going to be a really interesting season from now to the end, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and we'll see you on the next one.